This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast revisiting television, sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between.
This week, Automan, episodes 6 and 7.
Look at this. Cohen Lyman were under investigation by Whitaker prior to the armory robbery.
Yes, but according to that, the case was closed.
But it doesn't say why. It could have been for insufficient evidence. But the important thing is that those cops had already been in trouble before, and for some reason, Whitaker didn't mention it.
Odd, since it certainly does reflect on their testimony.
Jack and the captain have got to listen to me now. See you later, Otto. Oh, and thank that little word processor for me. And do me a favor, stay out of trouble, will you?
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast that's going undercover as Count Inuum Drog.
That's the best one yet.
I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
Okay, I really enjoyed that. It's just a dumb pun, so I enjoyed it. But I'm still going to give you what's real. Okay, here's what's real. Did you realize that statistically the silver Corvette is second only to the black Porsche in terms of owners with macho hang-ups?
That was such a very specific piece of information from Automan this episode.
That line was just like, it just stuck out so poorly, too. It was like, what? Why are we talking about this?
He needed to tell that so he could tell who the two villains were based on the cars they drove.
This show. But give me again. What was the Continuum Drag thing?
Oh yeah, like how Automan in these episodes goes by Agent Automan, where our podcast goes undercover as Count Inuum Drog.
What I like about it, it's not even that like you're making fun of it. It's as good as what is written in this show.
It's the exact same thing Automan's doing.
Yeah.
Except I make up the first name Inuum. All right, Jordan. Before we get into it. You're a resident Game Boy. What do we got?
Yeah, I am Game Boy. So I have a thing we've done before, but I've designed it a little different for you, Luke. And I'm only saying that in that I've designed it in that I think you should be able to get 5 out of 5. So it's a guess the actor, and how guess the actor works is I'm going to give a random role for each of the actors in the show, and you're going to pick and figure out which actor played which role based on knowing nothing. So here we go. So here's, just to remind you, the actors in this show is Desi Arnaz Jr., who plays Walter Nebeker, or what do they always call him? Nebish.
The listener can't see this, but Jordan rolled his eyes real hard.
You got Chuck Wagner playing Automan. You have Robert Lansing playing Lieutenant Jack Curtis. Heather McNair playing Roxanne Caldwell, I suppose. And Gerald O'Loughlin playing Captain E.G. Boyd.
They should call him E.G. more.
I'm going to give you the movies, and you can pick who was in what movie. First one. This actor played Pat Denning in the 1993 TV movie Moment of Truth, Stalking Back. The second one. This actor played Robbie Harrington in the 1978 TV movie How to Pick Up Girls! ! This is my favorite, maybe, character name in a long time. It's a very, Louis L'Amour, Hondo sort of character. This person played Chutch in the 1957 movie A Hat Full of Rain. Also, do you want to watch that movie?
It sounds very good.
Yeah. The fourth one. This person played Chad Danning in a 1986 episode of Dynasty.
Okay.
And lastly, this person played John Phillips in the 1972 movie that you and I watched, The Astronaut. One of these actors was in The Astronaut, which we watched, I think, season 2? Season 3? Season 2?
Might have been last year. I don't know.
Yeah. So I can go through them again, but those are the 5 movies and the 5 actors.
All right. Give me the first movie, and we'll just go from there.
This person played Pat Denning in the 1993 TV movie, Moment of Truth, Stalking Back.
What was the name? Chad?
Pat Denning.
Oh, this has to be Roxanne.
All right. Next one. This person played Robbie Harrington in the 1978 movie How to Pick Up Girls!
This is Automan for sure.
Okay. This person played Chutch in the 1957 movie A Hat Full of Rain.
I'm going to go with Captain Boyd for this one.
All right. This person played Chad Danning in a 1986 episode of Dynasty.
I'm going to have to go with Wally for that one.
And finally, this person played John Phillips in the 1972 movie The Astronaut, and so it's got to be Jack. I think it's the only one you have left.
Yes, I believe Detective Jack Curtis.
Okay. You got, drum roll, 3 out of 5.
Oh,
You
did I
have
get
one
wrong?
role you've mixed up. Desi Arnaz Jr. played Robbie Harrington in the 1978 movie How to Pick Up Girls.
Oh, darn it.
And I thought you would get it because Chuck Wagner can only play Chad Danning, a beautiful man in Dynasty. One episode. I'm assuming he just was, I don't know, he swept someone off their feet with his gorgeous
Well, I was
looks.
picturing him picking up girls, so that's was my problem there.
But pretty good, though, still.
I was so close to a clean sweep. I thought I had it.
But do you remember Jack? He played John Phillips. I don't know. I looked at my notes. I still know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who that is either. I mean, there probably was someone at the NASA facility.
I think so.
If he wasn't the lead, I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyways, we didn't know he was in 2 things we've seen.
That's pretty good, though. He's an all-star.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan. Should we get into this week's episode?
Mm-hmm.
Here is the IMDb summary for episode 6, Flashes and Ashes.
Let me just say, I've said it before. I love the titles in this. And Flashes and Ashes is great. And I think maybe you and I should be Flashes and Ashes. What do you think? Our nicknames?
that's the nickname?
What was the nickname we were talking before we were recording that you wanted? It was like Luke and the Fats? What was it? You wanted me to be a big fat guy?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You would just, I mean, it's like 35 degrees here, so you'd be sweating as much as you currently are,
Yeah.
I guess. But
Yeah. These are the conversations we have off the air where Luke suggests, wouldn't it be good for the podcast if I became a really fat person?
I mean, we won't know until you try.
It's true. But I kind of like Flashes and Ashes.
Flashes and Ashes is a very good duo's name.
Anyways, sorry, I digress.
You sure do. Walter's friend, Frank Cooney, is killed by fellow cops who steal from an armory. However, they make it look like he was the thief, so Walter does his own investigation to prove otherwise.
That's very clumsily written a summary, but it's pretty much got all the beats.
It's got it all. It's accurate.
Let me just say something weird about this episode. These 2 episodes have interesting ideas. Now, the execution will be something else we'll talk about, but there's something weird about this episode. So you mentioned, I don't know, what's the cop's name at the beginning of this episode?
Frank Cooney.
So Frank Cooney, you meet him at the beginning of the episode. And there's not a spoiler from a 40-year-old show. You will see him at the end of the episode. But could you track that's what he looked like? Like, you see him one scene, and then at the end, you're like, there he is. You're like, is that what he looks like? I don't remember.
I mean, you could easily swap that actor out because, this first scene, he's walking in on a bunch of cops stealing weapons and then just shoot him to death.
Yeah, it's your classic scene where, like, the cop comes in, they're loading into a back of a truck. He's like, stop. They're like, no, you stop. They get a shootout. They're all terrible shots, but one shoots him. And then I like the one guy's like, we killed him. Now what do we do? I was like, well, you were shooting guns at him.
My big question was, how many guys did you count loading that truck?
There was at least 4 or 5.
But for the rest of the episode, there's only 2 dirty
2,
cops.
I know.
So it seems like there's a bunch of dirty cops.
What I assumed was 2 of them were dirty cops, and they were like subcontracting out like the truck driver and stuff.
Oh,
You know
right,
what I mean?
right. These guys were just hired to do the job.
Yeah.
And anyway, this is the kickoff. And of course, these 2 dirty cops who've killed this man, they immediately go ahead and just pin the whole thing on him. I'm not sure how that pin job works. They're like, we walked in and he was stealing weapons, so we shot him to death. Also, all the weapons still got stolen.
It doesn't quite add up, but basically what you know is Wally, we learn, is friends with this guy, so he can't believe that this guy would have been a corrupt cop or on the take or whatever it might be. And he really wants to prove that, but doesn't really. The evidence sort of shows otherwise.
And why is Wally friends with him?
Did they go to school together?
They went to police academy
That's
together.
what it was, yeah.
So
yeah.
we can confirm Wally is actually a police officer.
Yeah.
And also, how hilarious was his time at police academy, do you think?
I'm guessing there was people having a great time, and Wally was just in his room, like on his computer.
Oh, so he was missing out on that guy who made all the voices with his.
That's
all
right.
the sounds with his mouth.
Yeah. Mahoney was out there sexing up the ladies, and he was just on his computer.
Oh, Wally.
Yeah, Wally.
Yes, this is basically it for Wally's plot, though. He's like, he needs to prove that his friend is innocent. And initially, Detective Curtis is charged with, like, the case, but he's immediately taken off of it when an internal affairs investigator comes in.
I like, though, that they had to even add this scene. It's something that this show does over and over and over, where they add scenes to almost create a conflict, but then immediately solve the problem that they've set up, like, one scene, and it's just to, like, make a scene. So, yeah, you're like, Jack, you're on the case. The guy comes in and goes, you're off the case. Jack's like, all right, you take it. I'm like, Why don't they just get the guy to internal affairs? Why even have the scene where Jack has the case?
Well, the only reason they seem to do it is they really want to drive home to you in this episode that only cops should take care of cop business. There should be no interlopers who come in.
I know.
And they mean that seriously in this episode.
Yeah. It's funny because right off the bat, you're supposed to dislike this internal affairs guy. But you're right. It's like he's there to investigate dirty cops, not having to be too connected to the cops. It makes perfect sense. But they're just like, nope, he's bad. Also, he's got a mustache.
Yeah, and it's very funny because at some point, Automan makes a comment, and the show's not smart enough to realize what a weird comment it's making about the show. But when while he's telling about the case, he's just like, who investigates the investigators when the investigators need to be investigated? And like he's supposed to say it like it's profound, but I'm like, internal affairs.
Yeah.
Not you, Wally. I have another question with this internal affairs guy, though, because he's got a mustache. We're going to know he's pretty sleazy and he's a bad guy because for whatever reason he has to be.
But I'll give them this. They don't really show their hand right away. You get the sense as a viewer because you're savvy enough watching these shows.
Yes.
You're like, he's a little bit oily, but it's not like he comes out, he's overt. He's not like twisting his mustache evil, right? It's just like, oh, I don't think we're supposed to like him because he's not on their side. But it's, this show's not quite adult enough or well written enough to sort of be subtle about things. So you're like, I know what this is.
Well, they do say about him very much off the top is that like he's internal affairs, but his intention is he really wants to be district attorney. And I was just like,
that is odd.
Is that the pathway to district attorney? I don't think so.
Well, yeah, and they really
have to be a lawyer.
It's funny. They really play up. They have this idea, and it's like the writers did no research. They're just like, he's internal affairs. He might be sketchy. He's also, that's not enough for him. That he just wants to be.
He has to be a politician. He wants to be a politician.
He also has to be a politician, and then he also has to be maybe a corrupt politician. Then he also has to be. It's like it's too much. It's always way too much in this show.
I know it doesn't add anything at all.
It's like there's no reason for it, but like you're gonna find out he also wants to be district attorney for some reason. But I don't think he's a lawyer. So, anyways.
Yes, and I mean, Wally and Automan, they are like, we're not gonna let this guy take this case, so we're gonna start trailing those dirty cops in the autocopter to see where they're headed to.
But here. Explain to me, Luke, the magic club that most of this episode is going to take place. Why is it a magic club?
Well, I don't know because they follow the bad guy's black Porsche.
yeah. That's the line I said earlier
Because of his macho hangups.
Yeah.
And they get to the High Spirits Club, which is great because it's got a.
That's a good. I didn't realize that was the title. That's a good title.
Good title. Got a big
name.
red Satan statue out front. All the waitstaff inside is dressed as witches.
Yeah,
it's just a pretty good.
Well, it was
theme.
weird because when you first get the shot of the building, it kind of looks almost like something like a
disco or something.
Yeah, like off the main stretch of Las Vegas or something, like a lesser kind of attraction. But then you go in and it looks like a kid's party, how everyone's dressed. And I was like what is this?
I don't know why the white stuff is all.
Yeah.
I know it's very funny, and we're told that it's a magic club where I guess magicians perform, and they go into this whole thing about how it's like it's very hip right now. Psychics and magicians are really in, which is almost apropos of nothing in this episode.
Not giving too much away, but there's a reason it has to take place here because of this reveal at the end. But it's almost way too convenient. It's just like, and I know that's maybe a silly complaint to have, but it's like. There's no other reason for it to be a magic club.
Well, it's just very funny because they basically was like, there's two episodes here. There's like one about police corruption and then one about magic tricks. And they're like, well, we'll just put them together somehow.
Yeah.
But yes, they go to this magic club. They're following these, they're going to follow these dirty cops in. And obviously Automan needs a costume change so he can go inside.
And let me just say a few things. One, I'm officially tired of him dressing up. The Automan costume, I like it. I like the look of it. I like how weird it is. Just stick with it. But every episode we have to have in another stupid costume. I'm sick of it. And this one's now the running gag on both these episodes is that I don't even know, it's like a wink to the audience, a joke. So in this he like puts on like a casual outfit, then he has jeans and Wally's like, nice pair of jeans, and he's like, not done yet. And then cursor autographs on his butt. Auto jeans.
It is the brand of jeans, Auto jeans.
And then later on the next episode, a similar is going to happen. He does a name tag, and I think he puts like Automan or something. But it's like, I just don't know what the joke is. It's just like, why would he do that? It's stupid. It's stupid. It doesn't add anything to the character. It's like someone would see those jeans and go, what are Auto jeans? He's like, oh, I made them up because I'm a digital hologram. It's stupid.
If the show had taken off, Auto jeans would have been everywhere.
Yeah, maybe. But
yes, he just. I only brought it up because I knew you would want to talk about that outfit.
Yeah. I don't know why it was so annoying. It just was.
It is very weird. They follow the murder cops. They follow them backstage at this magic shop.
Yeah.
So they go backstage, and Otto's feeling a little low-powered for no apparent reason.
Yeah, it is weird because he's just become Automan. He hasn't really done much. It's night. He should be getting all his power, but they have to have a scene where he goes up to, it's a generator?
Yes, he finds a generator backstage.
Yeah, and he sucks all the power out, and it he does it too fast, I guess, or he overloads it, and so it explodes, and he's like, what a rush, or whatever he says.
Yeah, it's he starts an electrical fire. He destroys this generator, and then my favorite.
Doesn't he? He gets a huge erection, doesn't he?
I think if he was in his auto suit, you'd be able to tell.
Yeah. Not in those auto jeans. They're roomy.
My favorite character of the entire episode comes out. The performer who's coming that night is Madame Russo. She does a seance every night, and that generator powered her special effects machine for her seance.
Which we
show.
never do learn what those were, but here's what we're going to know. What is going to happen, that Automan obviously is going to be doing some sort of, seance images. It's going to be much more impressive than whatever she did.
My favorite part about her is she comes backstage. She's just like, her generator is destroyed. She's about to go on. All her special effects destroyed. And she just looks at them and goes, well, here goes a big flopola, and just walks off to perform. And I'm just like, she's professional.
I don't even remember that. I like that, though.
It made me laugh. I'm just like, I love this lady.
She's like, forget it.
I guess
She just goes, she stands on a chair and just hangs herself. You're like, oh, geez.
Jesus. Well, see, this is also confusing to me, but Wally apparently wanders off during this, and Automan never goes to find him.
It is weird, right? That's the weird thing about they always have to separate them for some reason, and at least in a couple of the earlier episodes, they'd have some sort of flimsy reason. Now they'll just have like one of them wander off. Or Wally will go somewhere, and then Automan has to be like, yeah, I think I'm just going to go.
But essentially, Automan stands against the door and listens in, and what he hears is the owner of this magic club is also an arms dealer, and he was working with those two cops to steal the guns, and they're going to sell them in 3 days, and they're going to get all the money at that point.
So now let me ask you something. There's a couple points I'm going to make. This is a 1984 show. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the character you're talking about. This is the first person of color we've seen in this show.
Yes, I believe so.
Which is kind of crazy if you think about it, just the time period. That it's been white people across the board.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think a lot of these shows we've watched in general, that's generally
very
the
white,
case.
yes.
They can be very white.
Yeah. I mean, and also, I should say, if we're digging down this hole, the female representation is bad in the show.
Oh, watching these shows, and we've kind of hinted at like how they view how cops should deal with cop things, and they don't really, I know they don't realize what they're doing, but like the only black character is also a criminal.
Yeah.
Like looking back on it, you can just see just like the toxic nature of society that was just built because this was the casual viewing you got to watch.
Right. But not to get too deep into that. The other thing, so he owns this gentleman. What was his name?
I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I think he's wearing like a smart turtleneck. That's all you need to know. He's got like a big desk where the cops keep there's several scenes of them kind of coming to him. So he owns the club.
Yes, he runs the magic club.
And here's what I like, but he's also an arms dealer.
But he also is an arms dealer.
But what I like is this club is not a front.
No.
It's like he's legitimately running this club.
It makes no sense why he'd have both businesses. Yeah. Truly, it makes no sense. At any rate, Wally's immediately caught. Like some guy walks by.
And how does he get caught? Because he's literally just like putting his ear to a door like an idiot.
Well, and it's so funny, too, because in the pilot we established that Automan can, hear through doors from, several feet away. So just, get Automan to do it.
Well, I mean, look, we're going to get nitpicky. There's so many problems because they've overpowered Automan.
Yeah.
So there's so many times where things happen, and it's like, I don't know if it's this episode or it's the next episode, where he has to get into a room, and Automan, puts his finger in a doorknob to, open it. I'm like... You just go through the wall. What are we doing?
I do remember that, and we'll just skip over that next episode. But he has to get in a room, so he just puts his finger through the lock, and I'm just like, you can walk through the wall.
Yeah.
I was just so mad at him. You just broke a door for no reason.
I know. It's just they do stuff like that constantly in the show, and I think part of it is maybe the writer is not keeping track of his powers, or even worse, they don't care. And I think the bigger problem though is they gave him too many powers to begin with, and it gets you out of situations they want to put them in.
Well,
right?
I'll tell you this. They didn't forget he can walk through walls, because in that episode, he will walk through a wall too.
Okay.
At any rate, in this episode, Wally's caught. The bad guys are like, what are you doing here? Are you listening in on our arms dealing conversation? And Automan does finally appear to save Wally. He walks into the room and is just like, hey, everybody, we're Madame Russo's new special effects team.
Okay, so here's my point. So they go oh yeah, Wally, I guess we'll watch, and if he is the new assistant, then you are not snooping, we can let you go, which is like, okay. But did we miss a scene as a viewer of Automan having a conversation with the woman saying, hey, I wrecked your stuff, but I can do all these tricks? Because we don't see that conversation. She now goes on with her show, seemingly missing, I don't know, 50% of her show because she can't do this special
Probably
effects.
90%.
90%. So what was her plan? Did I guess
Big
Automan
flopola.
talk her?
Big flopola.
So she's pleased. She's just like, the show must go on.
Yeah, no. She was just going to go out there and tank it. That's what her plan was. Because basically Automan goes out with the club owner, and he's just like, the club owner's like, well, show me what you're going to do if this is real. And, Automan and Cursor flies around and scares everybody, and like Automan materializes in his auto suit, and like everyone's freaked out, and like Madame Rousseau's as freaked out as anybody. She has no idea what's happening next to her.
But you know what? She's a true performer. She just goes with it.
Oh yeah, she just goes with it. And of course, the show guy backstage, the club owner backstage, is watching, and he's blown away. I look at somebody, he says, "Oh man, I gotta book this guy for the show." I'm like, as far as you know, you have booked this guy for the show. But essentially, it works. Like everyone's impressed. Automan materializes out of thin air, does the show. Wally's let go. Although my favorite part is at the end of the séance when Automan's done his thing, he doesn't like dematerialize. He just like walks off stage.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he just walks off. It's like, why didn't he?
I'm like, Automan, just finish the show.
He was 95% there.
And they get out of the club. They kind of got away with it. But as they're walking away, who should pull up in a white Corvette? The other car that makes you masculinely.
It's those bad guys, right?
No, it's the assistant, the internal affairs man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So Lieutenant Whitaker,
yes.
Yeah, that's right. He shows up and
he sees Wally.
So Automan goes away. Is that what happens?
Well, Wally sends Automan away to keep following the dirty cops, and then the IA guy shows up, and they kind of have a little like, "What are you doing here?" "No, what are you doing here?" And then he goes inside and goes to the club owner. He's like, "I think that Wally guy's onto me selling guns to you."
And you know what? We talked about this a little before. I think actually, in my opinion, the worst power that Automan could have is letting Wally into him. and the reason is it's too much, because there's too many situations where that gets you out of everything.
Well, they never use it enough to get him out of
That's
stuff.
what I mean. But they could. But it would just kill the show, because every scene you could just be like, just jump in me and we'll go through these walls and we'll run through here and we'll deflect bullets. So they have to find other reasons. But I'm like, just don't even introduce that power then. Because this is another scene where it's like, oh, he's going to see me. I'm like, just enter Automan.
Just inside Automan.
And then Automan puts on a suit and he's just wearing his auto jeans. You won't know who he is. Anyway.
You're not wrong. Oh, did you like when Automan left the club and everyone was so impressed?
They want his autograph?
His, quote, autograph? He loved it. Automan was eating up. He loved saying autograph. Anyway.
Can't they just give him a name at this point? Why can't Wally just give him a name?
His name is Automan, man with two N's.
But like, Jerry. His name is Jerry. Whatever. You know? He's got sentience. You've learned a lot about him. Name him. Give him a name.
What about Matt for automated?
Yeah, that's not bad.
Automatic.
That's better than Jerry.
At any rate, now we know the internal affairs guy is a bad guy. He knows Wally's on to him. Or
we know he's bad
around.
Because it's not a coincidence that he'd also be going to this very specific magic club where these bad guys are hanging out.
Well, and we do see him go talk to the bad guys.
That's true.
Say, hey, how's those guns selling going?
Yeah.
At any rate, the next day, Wally comes to work, and he's immediately in trouble. Like he gets called into the captain's office, and he's suspended from work, but remarkably for a very good reason. I can't remember. What is the reason?
Oh, no, is it because he's investigating a case he's not supposed to be doing anything with?
No, he goes in, and the bad guy's there, the internal affairs guy's there, and he's there with the boss, and he's like, Wally, is it true your dead friend Frank Cooney, were you giving him classified, uncleared information about inventories and duty rosters, like implying this guy had been investigating on his own? And Wally's just like, oh yeah, I've been giving him all that classified information. And they're like, why? And Wally says, he's like, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Procedures take a long time. So Wally is constantly giving out classified information to anyone who asks.
Yeah, so it is funny that like this weird moment of realism they have in this very cartoony kind of show. And what we've learned is Wally is a bad cop. He's actually a bad cop.
Terrible.
But what I like is also the scene that we find out that here's the only kind of development we've had of Roxanne in like 6 episodes is that she apparently has the hots for Lieutenant Whitaker.
Yes, her and Lieutenant Whitaker are apparently an item of some sort. At this point, I still didn't know what her job was, and Whitaker comes out and is like, have you prepared my speech for me? And she's like, yes, I've collated it for you.
I know. They've done very little research as to what police positions they could have because they don't want her to be like a beat cop, I guess, and they don't want her to be a detective. So they're just like, she collates scripts because she's a woman.
I mean, they finally do in the next episode call her officer, so I'm like, it's the first I could tell that what her job is.
I know she's a police. I just don't think. I think they have to stay vague about it because they don't know what a woman could do.
Yeah, it's very strange. But at any rate, at the end of this, the culmination is Wally suspended from his job.
But don't you think it was interesting that they sort of hinted that Wally was irritated because she is some, as you said, some sort of item with Whitaker, but it's not really a jealousy thing, which they kind of at the very beginning of the show, I think the first or second episode, they kind of hinted that like there was going to be a bit of a will they won't they with these two, and they've got to really like just drop that entirely.
I mean, I would have agreed with you if it weren't for a little later in this episode when Wally is begrudging all the awful things that have happened to him this episode because he's like suspended and he's losing his job. He turns to Automan and says, I've lost my job, I've lost my girl, I've lost my reputation. And I was just like, what girl?
I don't even remember that.
And the only thing I can figure out
maybe it's the landlady.
He's referring to, yeah, maybe. I'm just like, Roxanne's not your girl, bro.
Yeah. I don't know. I just am surprised that seemed like a easy episode to sort of develop that relationship, and like maybe it is a one-sided, feelings for Wally, but like they don't play it at all. He's just like, oh, Lieutenant Whitaker is just better than me. Wah, wah.
Maybe Wally's just not the best actor too.
I mean, let's be fair. He's not. He's not a very good actor. Sorry, Desi Arnaz Jr.
Anyway, now that Wally's suspended, Automan decides it's time for him to go rogue again. Like, it's time for Automan to take things under his control. So he once again goes undercover as Automan with 2 N's.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, he shows up as the FBI agent, which is such a weird thread that has continued through all the episodes, which is he's an FBI agent. No one really ever asks any questions because you just say FBI and everyone, like, gets blown away. But, like, they're so leaning into it now that, like, he just every episode he becomes this FBI agent. It's this weird like get out of jail free every time they need it to be something.
Yeah. He's come to help investigate this case, but he's working for a new part of the FBI. Did you catch the bureau he's working for?
I'm looking to see if I wrote it down. I don't think so. What was it?
He's now working for the Bureau of Psychic Investigations.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And they're like, it's funny because they're sort of, I think it's the captain sort of dismissive about it, but it's also like he's still impressed with how handsome and charming that Automan is. Because if Wally did it, they'd be all over him. But he's like, I don't know if I feel about this, but you do seem like a strapping young lad, so I'll allow it.
He's like, I know what you think, Captain. I had the same thoughts too, but this psychic stuff is real.
Yeah.
It's just so funny because they want this thread of like magic and psychicness, but
it's not
no end.
Yeah, it's like, and that's what I mean. It's like, why was he that?
I couldn't tell you.
Like, he could have just said, I'm investigating internal affairs, or I'm investigating. We think these guns are a federal crime, and I'm also investigating that crime.
There's a million things that make more sense than sending a psychic investigator to it.
True. Although, do you think this is where the X-Files got its idea from?
I think primarily this is where the X-Files spawned out of. But like you said, he's very handsome.
Yeah.
He's a federal agent, and he's very good at flattering. I think he flatters Whitaker, the internal affairs guy, by being like, we're watching you in Washington.
That's right. Yeah, and the guy's like, oh, that's great. That is going to help my weird career-wise trajectory that doesn't make any sense.
Well, at this point, he's just like, well, Mr. Automan, you should come to my fundraiser for my district attorney campaign. Meet me at the country club.
Yeah, so this is, I tell you, I don't even know how to articulate how weird the structure of these shows are. It's just a series of scenes, and there's like, oh yeah, and now it's a fundraiser. And so, like, this all is, I mean, we've said this before. How long was it going to take for Automan to play tennis? Because they mentioned the first episode that he plays tennis like Jimmy Connors. I'm going to note a couple things. 1, he does not play left-handed. Disappointing. 2, when we finally get tennis action, it's not even about how good he plays tennis. It's about like a silly, he switches the ball that's like a zany ball that he like controls and it like defies physics. And it's like, but why couldn't he have just been an amazing player?
I mean, let's get into it. He goes to the country club.
Yeah.
Whitaker is, for whatever reason, he's playing matches of tennis for $1,000 a pop. Like
So that's the thing.
to raise money.
Yeah, but here's what doesn't make sense. The actual party is a fundraiser. He's brought in wealthy people who clearly support him and support his
Political ambitions.
Political ambitions. So they're donating money. And even if he mentions to a couple people like, "Oh, you owe me more of this," but then on top of that, he's doing something that could not be sketchier. And there's no way. I don't know what all the legalities of donations are in the United States.
Fundraising.
But there's no way that you can claim money that you bet on tennis matches. So that's what we find is he's also betting $1,000 a game. But what I like, though, is when they say $1,000 a game, I thought they meant game in a general sense, not in the tennis sense, which is one game, game, set, and a match. So when we find out later, they're like, it's $1,000 a game. I'm like, oh, each little game within the tennis match is $1,000? That is a lot of money.
There's a lot. And he's been cleaning up. So when Automan...
25,000 they say he's up.
Yeah, so when Automan gets there, Automan's like, well, I've been thinking about running for president, so what do you say?
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's just like, why would you even say that?
What do you say we play all or nothing?
Yeah, all or nothing, yeah.
And as you said, Automan plays tennis. He uses cursor as a ball and just cheats his way to victory, which I was also like, you're an 11, dude. Just play tennis.
Yeah, and it just, I know partially why, because I think it's harder probably to teach an actor to play tennis than it was to teach him how to do an acting sequence. A dancing sequence. But what a ball job. And also, it was one of those things where you're like, we've had this back and forth. Is this a kid show or whatever? This is a kid show scene. This is a Galactica 1980 Super Scout scene.
Just like goofy sports stuff.
Yeah, the ball bounces and then rolls back and the guy swings and he misses it.
And it's very funny. As they're doing this, like he's cheating to win, so it doesn't really need this. But Automan is also like... Trash talking and revealing kind of stuff he knows about Whitaker.
Yeah, so...
It's very funny. I'll explain it to you.
I know, but like, I don't understand. What was it, just to force him into admitting stuff?
Yeah, he's trying to catch him in a corner, and basically what they've kind of figured out, or what Automan's done, is he's looked at his computer. He's gone into side of his computer. Mm-hmm. He's looked at it, and he's seen that this guy has been deleting case files, like investigations into corrupt cops he's been working on. Because, as we come to learn, he's basically recruiting corrupt cops he's investigating to basically help do this gun running thing. So he finds a corrupt cop, gets hired to a case, then he corners that cop and says, "You work for me now, and I'll delete the case file."
Yeah.
And then as Automan tells him...
It's a quid pro quo kind of thing.
Yeah. He's like, I'll get you out of trouble, but you got to work for me. And then as Automan tells him, it's just like, some people don't know that the computers have a backup memory. And his face goes white, and I'm just like, somebody didn't clear their cache.
Yeah. Again, the knowledge of computers in this is superficial at best.
I mean, this one was a little it kind of worked for me because it's very much like somebody didn't hit the recycle bin or something.
Right.
Like this guy doesn't know computers that well, but it kind of puts him on the back foot. He loses the game, and you can see he's kind of getting ready to come clean about something. But did you as Automan walks off of the tennis court, someone from the audience yells down, "What kind of racket is that?" And he's like, "It's a regulation auto racket." But the important part is, Jordan, that was a special appearance.
What do you mean?
In the beginning of the credits, there's a special appearance by Roscoe Tanner in the credits listed.
Who's Roscoe Tanner?
He was a big tennis star of the time, apparently.
I don't know him.
Famous for his big left-hand serve, and he won a number of tournaments, and he played in Wimbledon and went up against Bjorn Borg, I believe.
Yeah, I know Bjorn Borg. I don't know Roscoe Tanner, though.
Yeah, he was a big deal for a period of time. Although through the 90s and 2000s, he served some time in jail for writing bad checks and not paying child support. But
he spent too much time with Lieutenant Whitaker picking up his bad habits.
Yeah, he unfortunate cameo in retrospect. But there's just a big...
It's like watching Naked Gun when O.J. Simpson's in it. You're like, oh, he is kind of funny in this. Too bad he horribly massacred those two people. Oh, that's aged badly.
But yeah, it just started the episode. I noticed there's special appearance by, and I was like, who is this? And as tennis person or something was the credit for it. And so
we should mention though, to cut you off, after he finishes the match, he's like, oh, I won the money. He's like, I don't want the money. I just want answers.
Yeah, he just wants answers.
And I was like, but you take the money from the guy too.
And we skipped over a little interstitial scene that kind of comes in right about now is, while Automan was going to this tennis court, we cut away, and while he's getting home to his apartment, and while he's at home, there's a knock on his door, and there's two corrupt cops in ski masks bust in home invade him
and beat
just
the hell out of him.
beat the hell out of Wally.
Yeah.
Just beat the hell out of him.
Poor Wally's been beaten up so much in this show.
It's crazy. And then kind of what happens is now that Automan has kind of beat this guy, mentioned that he's read his police files and he's been deleting stuff. Basically, Automan, Wally, Captain Boyd, and Roxanne all go into the country club lounge to get the truth.
Yeah.
And Whitaker kind of comes clean, or he comes clean in a way that works for Roxanne and the captain, but doesn't really make any sense.
Right.
He kind of explains yes, that's true. I did delete some files about corrupt officers, but I only did that because when I looked into the actual cases that I was investigating about them being corrupt, what I found was that the dead cop Frank Cooney had pinned it all on them, and he was framing everybody who's ever been corrupt. So I just let them go because they're innocent.
Yeah, it was, it looks bad, but it's all tied up quite nicely. It's all this guy.
And Captain Boyd and Roxanne are pretty willing to accept that. And then Wally's just standing there. He's just look at my face. They came into my house and I'm covered in bruises. And Roxanne turns to him and says, Wally, you accused their friends of being corrupt. Of course cops came to your house and beat the shit out of you. You deserved it. I'm like,
I know. It's so funny.
What? Roxanne is literally Wally, you earned that because you said a cop did something bad, so you have to get the shit kicked out of you.
Yeah. It is, in 2021, this couldn't look worse.
I don't understand how you think that's okay in
No, but I think it's just that
I think you're right. I think that was
that's just what it was.
I think that was the time. It's just yeah, cops should be able to go into your house and ski mask and beat the shit out of you if you falsely accuse them. It's even though you haven't falsely accused them.
It is funny though too, because he pulls when they're beating him up, he pulls the ski
He
mask
knows
off
who they
and
are.
he sees who they is. So it's not a
I
secret
work
at all.
with you.
Yeah, and they're just yeah, we beat you up. It's well, this is a real Serpico moment.
Yeah, it's so bizarre, so bizarre. And at any rate, basically Wally is still on the outs, despite all of its evidence and getting beat up. They're still Wally, you're going to get fired, I guess. But Automan has a plan to get Wally out of it. All he needs is that old low-quality VHS tape Wally has of that dead cop.
It's some sort of training sequence or some sort of thing they shot. I didn't know what it was. It seemed like a poor piece of theater.
I mean, first of all, the images of dead Frank Cooney on this VHS tape, you mostly see his back, so I don't know what Automan's basing his imaging processing off. But the idea is he's going to watch it and be able to make a hologram of him. But
which I have to say, in itself, is actually a pretty neat idea for the show. And if they'd hinged the episode on that, and if it had been structured in a better way of learning that they're going to solve a crime by fooling someone in this sort of Ebenezer Scrooge way of projecting stuff, I think there's something fun to play with. But they stick it in the last act and go oh yeah, by the way, this is how it's going to, all that other stuff, don't worry about it. Magic. You're what? It's kind of lame.
I mean, they had to save it. It's the big reveal, the Tupac-esque hologram at the end.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, the videotape they show him, and I had to write this down because I was so confused by it as well. Wally explains, I have this videotape from Police Academy.
Yeah.
It was our final project for Police Academy, which I'm do you have final projects?
Yeah, it was a final project, and the final project is making a video. That's what every police officer needs to do at the end. They make a little nicely edited video.
And the video is they were doing a sting on a drug dealer. So Wally recorded Frank buying drugs from a drug dealer, and then Wally says, but we only got a C because we didn't catch him. It was so you guys just bought drugs on video. That's all you did.
Yeah. But you still got a C.
It's insane. But they head over to the old High Spirits Club to set up a sting. Of course, with the help of Detective Jack Curtis, who's
back in the episode.
He's on payroll, so they have to give him something to do every week. And this time it's just sit in his car while they go inside.
That was weird, right? Because I was oh, is it a stakeout? Not really.
He's just I shouldn't be doing this, Wally, but I get paid every week to do this show, so here I am.
Yeah.
They go inside the club, and the club owner wants old Whitaker, the internal affairs guy, to talk the dirty cops to getting on a boat to go pick up the guns, and then they're just going to kill them and get rid of them because they're too problematic. And basically, they're all sitting at a table together discussing what's going to happen.
I know what you're going to explain because I didn't actually understand this. So is this part where Wally's hiding? Wally doesn't want them to see him. He's there. But then 2 seconds later,
I don't know why Automan reveals himself. He walks up to the table where they're all sitting, and Automan's hi, it's me, and Wally's over there.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We literally have a scene where Automan and Wally come into the club, and they're hiding, and Wally's oh no, I don't want them to see me, because then they'll understand something's up and some sort of sting's happening. Then immediately Automan walks over, is hey, it's me, Automan. See Wally over there? And Wally waves. I was guys, Did you not pay attention to what you just wrote a scene ago?
It didn't make any sense because it doesn't matter that they know.
No.
Because they sit down, Madame Rousseau returns to do her seance.
And Automan mentions he wrote all of her dialogue this time.
Yes, Automan has told her this time he's helping with the special effects. And essentially she does her seance and they materialize the hologram of the dead police officer who does, yes, as you said, a classic like Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
He like points at the cops and says, "You killed me."
Yeah. The effect doesn't actually look that bad.
No, it looks fine.
It looks like it's of its time, but it's all right. And again, I think it's a neat idea to have taken footage and Automan has been able to reconstruct this. Again, what you're saying, there's not really enough footage to play with to do this, but I think it's a neat idea. It's just, I just thought the execution was so dumb.
It's just like a weird thing to throw in at the end. And like even when he appears and points at them, the like the two cops and the internal affairs guy, they immediately stand up and start confessing to the room that they in fact did murder him. And then one of the cops just pulls out a gun and starts firing into the crowd.
I think he starts trying to shoot Cooney.
Yeah.
But obviously he's a
hologram.
He's
Can't
a hologram.
shoot him. Kills Rousseau though. She's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. She knew it was not going to go well.
But yeah, so basically they confess to a room of people. So like we got him. Like there's a chase sequence. Like the club owner and the internal affairs Whitaker guy run out. They're caught by cops.
And doesn't one guy run and get shot in the foot or something? What happens?
The two cops run out the front door. And then one of them just shoots the other in the back for some reason.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like, I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah,
I was like, all right.
It doesn't make any sense. The final, like, one of the cops gets in his car and drives away, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna need a chase sequence now." And as they're like, they summon the autocopter, and like Whitaker sees it appear, and he's just like, "I'll confess to everything. I just saw Automan make a thing out of thin air." Like it's just like that thing they would do every episode, where he's just like, "I'll cooperate, no problem." And then we just get like a chase sequence where they chase down this car. It doesn't take long, and they've caught all the bad guys.
Then they go back to the station. Wally gets reinstated.
Absolutely.
He gets his, I don't know, swipe card back.
Yeah, he gets his gun.
Like, does he have a gun?
I don't think we've ever seen him carry a gun.
No.
But we always need that button where Captain Boyd gets something to say, because he is also on payroll, and they need to give him something to do.
Yeah.
Although this was actually he had more to do with this episode than usual.
My assumption is both Jack and the captain are actors that are much better than these scripts warrant, and I think everyone kind of knows that, and it's like, well, we got to give him something.
I feel like they're on so little but are so much in the main cast. I just feel like they have another show they're doing concurrently.
Right across the hallway.
Because they're really never needed for more than like a day's shoot.
No.
Anyway, but yeah, the episode wraps up. Wally's back on the police force. Corruption is solved. Police are allowed to still beat each other up, and the civilians all they like. It's great.
And maybe Wally is dating Roxanne, but he's not.
I mean, certainly he's incel who's obsessing over her.
That's right.
All right, here's the Imdb summary for episode 7, The Biggest Game in Town.
So is your new nickname is The Biggest Game.
Yeah.
And I'm Town.
Town, and I'm in you.
Yeah, like
Wallow Man and Audio.
Exactly.
Nice.
Otto. How can this be?
That gun is of my world. It fires an electronic beam that disrupts my molecules.
Hang on, Otto. There must be something I can do.
I need more strength to heal the disruption. More power.
Otto.
Thank you, Walter. Let's go.
Ronald Tilson, a former computer expert for the city fired for embezzlement, threatens the city of Los Angeles with total chaos and destruction if his ransom demands are not met. Walter and Automan have to work out who is behind the demands.
This is another episode that frustrated me in the sense that I think there's a nugget of a really good episode here.
100%.
Or at least
100%.
Yeah, and there's a couple different ways they can go, because what you really realize at the end is like, this is a bit of a, maybe a poor way to say it, but like a bomb diffuse episode, or like a running clock episode. There's could be some sense of tension in several different ways they could have taken this and maybe they're TV tropes and things you've seen a million times, but the reason you've seen a million times is because they usually work. And this shows like, we know there's a way to make this entertaining, but I think we're going to do something different.
They almost get there.
No, and you're right. They almost get there. It's just, there's too much happening and too many little pieces, and it's like, there's so many good shows in here. They just don't know which way to go.
Threads, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know I probably give the show too much credit on this side, but truly, this episode is just an episode about ransomware. Like
Yeah.
it's about
Yeah.
hackers taking over and wanting money to give you your computers back, which I'm just like, this is the most prescient they've ever been on this show. Like
Yeah.
they nail it on that front, but it's not working otherwise. The episode starts off at the Pandemonium Disco.
You always remember these names. The Pandemonium Disco. That's a good
Absolutely.
name. Because you know what? You know you're not going to have a quiet night there.
Well, I mean, Pandemonium's broken up that night
Yeah.
because, quote, another, end quote, bomber is scaring the city.
That's right.
Which,
Another one.
Another one.
Yeah.
And Detective Curtis and Officer Roxanne are there with the bomb squad, and they found and defused the bomb that was in the inside of this disco, and that's how it's starting. They found a bomb.
And the only thing I really liked about this was the name of the owner of the club, Sam Maroney.
Oh yeah, she was great. They introduce her. She seems like she's going to be a main character on this episode.
Never seen her again.
They
I think
do-
maybe at the very end of the episode.
They introduce the idea there's a bomber on the loose, not going to come up again till
Yeah.
the end of the episode again. It was such a weird fake out beginning.
Yeah.
And as they're sort of taking the bomb away, suddenly all the power goes out in West LA, and everyone just starts looting.
Yeah, I actually, again, thought that was pretty good. It was, I think, pretty true to form. It's a blackout, like, chaos ensues. It's looting, it's vandalism,
Absolutely.
people go nuts.
And all of the city's computers are immediately locked out, and they're all just showing a note on them all saying, pay $10 million or expect more computer craziness.
Okay, here's a question I have. The ransom note is on every computer?
Yes.
Because it seemed like at one point it was just being sent to the police. Because they were, like, at one point, aren't they, like, hiding it, like let's not get this information out? But seemingly it's on every newspaper and everything. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, later on they're like, oh, we better keep a secret. I'm like, but it's on every computer, isn't it? On not only every
Yeah.
computer, seems to be on any bit of technology, like banking machines and like screens and
Well,
like.
I think it might have only been on the city's computer network.
Okay,
but
maybe.
still, nonetheless, that's a huge amount of people. That information, you're right. They were trying to keep it from getting out, but I was like, oh, this is out. You
Right.
guys.
That's why I thought like it was just a murderer's like Zodiac sending letters to
just taunting the police.
Yeah, but I don't think it.
I don't think it was either. But I will say, I was like, finally, a crime Wally is suited for.
Yeah.
I was like, a show that is tailored to
It
him.
is funny. It's funny. They've done, and we've said it, at least 3 episodes have been about like mafia, and there's been about.
The computers are all tangentially revolved.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, why didn't they just make them all computer related? There's got to be enough stories.
I mean, honestly, this basic premise and this plot, like, this is your pilot.
Yeah.
Like, this is like a computer crime. At any rate, Wally summons Automan to help him out, who weirdly and will never come up again. Automan appears, and the first thing he does is berate Wally for giving them both the same likes and dislikes.
And for women.
And Automan just like, I wish I were horny for brunettes, but you didn't let me be. And I'm just like, what?
It's such an odd scene that I can only imagine is played for laughs, but it's done straight, and there's actually nothing funny about it. Maybe it was funnier in 1984, but it is such an odd scene because that's exactly what he says. He's just like, I want to be more attracted to other people, but you've limited my scope, and so I'm angry. And Wally's like, you're too horny. Stop it.
And I was just like, okay, that whole line of dialogue is stupid. But the concept of like, your creator has given you the same dislikes and likes and dislikes. I'm like, oh, is that going to be the theme of this episode? Unrelated.
Well, that's what I mean. It almost
to
felt like
anything.
they were going to the sort of like, what was that movie? Ex Machina?
Yeah.
That sort of idea of, creating something that's based on your, on your desires or whatever it might be. But it's like, no, it's just a throwaway line.
It's just a weird thing for Automan to say when he's summoned for no reason. Anyway, Wally asks Otto about all the computers that are locked out in the city, and Automan, since all computers in his world are personified and can talk directly to him.
That's right.
They're
They're all friends.
He's been chatting with them all, and they all say that their memories have been wiped and that they're being forced to commit these crimes. In fact, at this point, I believe the phone rings, and it's for Otto. It's a computer calling him.
That's right. And it just like beeps, I think, is what you hear on the other end.
It's exactly what happens. And it's the LA damn computer warning Otto that it's just received commands to flood LA. And we kind of get a sequence where the police all have to rush up to the dam. And I can't be 100% sure, but I am nearly positive because there's like a big shot going over top of the dam. And all this. I am almost sure these are shots from the movie Earthquake. Like
they
leading
might
up
be.
to because some of it looks like miniature work leading up to when they break open the dam and like flood, and I was like, oh cool, we're gonna get a flood. But no, they get up there and then Automan just turns a big valve and shuts them down.
Yeah, he gets over there real quick and turns the valve, and then the cops show up. They're like, oh, the valve's closed. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess someone close this for us.
Yeah.
It was so weird, and like it averts the flood, so like it kind of like I was just like, oh man, we didn't even get a cool disaster shot. But this aborted flood attempt causes the bad guys in this episode, who we'll get into a little later, to basically escalate their plans.
Yeah.
And basically all the city's computers are released, so the good guys are like, okay, we need to figure what's going on. Let's type into the computer, who is the worst computer criminal?
Oh, and I should mention, I think at this point, and maybe it's later, all the computer systems are like messed up in this area, right? Like, because they mention at one point, Wally says, they're like, oh, all the computers are down and we can't like do anything but see this message. And he says it could take days to counteract this system.
Right. Well, the bad guys just let him go. Just release it all. And then Wally just types into the computer, who's the worst computer bad
That's
guy?
right.
And they get
and they get a name. And not only do they get a name, it like digitizes like almost like you'd see like an old printer like line by line, and it's like a guy's face.
Did you catch the guy's name?
No.
Yargos Mentropoulos.
Oh, he sounds bad. Or at least sounds Greek.
He's the biggest computer thief in the West Coast.
Yeah.
So Detective Curtis is on the trail to track him down, which means that doesn't matter. So.
And I think, doesn't Wally at one point, I don't know if it's here when he does, but I remember at one point he's like, I want to run a check on every computer expert in the city. And I remember thinking, how would you ever do that?
I know that.
How would you know? And how would you, like, it doesn't make any sense.
There's this understanding that they don't know. They're in their minds, I think they just type keywords in, and then somehow computers just bring them back this information. It doesn't work that way, but Wally decides to take the investigation his own method now, because what we've seen throughout the episode, and we'll talk about it now, but this is where it kind of becomes important, is Wally's been attending the local computer conference that's going on, the Executive Microcomputer Conference.
I thought it was just a video game conference, like video games. It was because when we see Wally there, he's just like playing a race car game, and then people are like, you really love race cars, and Wally's like, I suck, man. I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, and Wally's there, why?
Well, that's it.
He did design that video game, that Days of Our Lives one or whatever.
Well, this seems to be a general computer conference, but for whatever reason, the writers only seem to understand that like computer games might be at the conference, so like they focus entirely on that.
That's why I thought it was just like a video game convention.
But it doesn't really make much, like, why that? I don't know.
No, it's just a way to introduce you to who will be the villains in this. And there's like 3 people.
Yeah, Wally goes with Automan to go check it out. And when they get there, Automan, like, puts on his Automan name tag, as you mentioned. And as he walks in, every single computer individually starts vocalizing hello, Automan, to him.
Yeah.
Speaking in a way that no one's designed them to.
Yeah. Well, but that's the reaction he has from everyone.
And Wally says to ask Automan to go ask around to the computers. Go ask around to all the computers. Have they seen anything weird?
Which, again, maybe getting too caught in the weeds, but we've also seen that in this world that exists in Automan, everything is connected to some sort of internet of something. Mm-hmm. So he can connect to them at any time via the phone, via the computer.
Yeah.
So why even go to the convention? He doesn't even need to appear anywhere. He could be in his system communicating. So it's like, I know why, because they need Chuck Wagner to walk around. But it's just like, guys, you've written yourself into a hole here.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Wally goes and meets up with a guy he knows at the convention, Bart.
Yeah.
He's a video game maker.
And Bart, I don't know the actor's name, but he was in RoboCop, in all 3 RoboCop movies. Oh,
really?
Which I think he might be the only actor in all 3 RoboCop movies. He's the guy that in the first RoboCop movie, he tastes the RoboCop's baby food. He's like, Anyways, it's that guy. But he's in all 3 RoboCop movies, which I'd watched recently, and I was like, what a weird character. He's like just a background character, and he's in all 3 movies. Anyways, fun fact.
He's the bad guy in his Automan.
Yeah.
Bad good guy. He
might. No spoiler, but he might have a change of heart.
He might be in over his head. He's hanging out with Allie, who's another video game programmer who made the games Cherry Bomb and 30 Ski Patrol.
Yeah. And I would say of the 3, not surprisingly, I should mention one. Bart is the second person, 2 episodes in a row, second person of color.
Yes.
So that's good. And then, what's her name, Sally?
Allie.
Allie. Allie is another female character, wonderful. However, I think of the 3, she's the least developed and has the least to work with.
She gets the least to work with. And I mean, I will give it, this is the first time I think they've given them at least, they're technological, they're good professionals.
She has a skill.
I mean, they're both the bad guys as well, so
yeah.
Here we go.
And who's the third guy?
And finally, there's Ron Tilson, who's the big bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they're basically they're the ones running this, and Tilson's the mastermind, and he's brought the other two in to help him.
I think they imply, or maybe
Because-
explicitly say, that he's really the mastermind, but they have specific skills that are useful for laying out his plans. But I don't think they ever explain, do they?
No, he keeps referring to his plan as a big game, but it's not. Like I kept expecting this to be like a big, like citywide video game that we're gonna have to play to win.
No, it's like a battle of wits is the game he's playing. But even that is not what
it's hard
is-
to say.
Yeah.
But that's why he got two video game people, because he needed them to help him do the puzzle part. But there's no puzzles.
Maybe the puzzle was creating the code to put the messages on computers.
Yeah, I mean,
don't
it
know.
just doesn't make sense why there's three of them essentially, but they just have three of them. And
No, and I should say it's also true because they don't give Susie, whatever her name is, Sally, Annie, Ruby,
Sally.
Allie. They don't give. It's terrible. They don't give Allie anything to work with anyways. Like you could have just given her 3 lines of dialogue to the other guy, or vice versa.
It was very unnecessary.
Anyway.
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 Wally immediately recognizes this Tilson guy, but is not sure why he recognized him, which is. How many times has Wally now seen somebody and then been like, I recognize you for some reason, but I don't know why.
But he also was like, I'm not really going to do much to follow up. I just feel hinky.
And he basically meets up with Otto. They take off from the conference, and then Otto's just like, oh, by the way, I talked to my best friend, this computer named Zaxxon. He said that Allie. He said his owner Allie's been acting real weird lately. So Wally kind of looks into this Tilson guy, and what he kind of finds is like Tilson was the master programmer for 4 other cities in the country. So I guess he like built the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, and he'd been doing it for LA as well. But he'd been fired because of budget overages and accusations of embezzlement. I think Tilson will say it's like, it cost me my job and my family. I'm like, well, the family's on you, my friend.
Yeah, right.
But so Wally's just like, okay, like clearly something's up. So he calls up his buddy Bart and is like, Bart, listen, don't leave town. We know you're involved in this somehow. And like Bart's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I gotta go. And then I think like half a scene goes by, and then Bart calls back. He's like, hey, it's me, Bart. I'm gonna confess to everything.
No, what it is he says, I don't really know anything. And Automan's like, let me get on the phone. And Automan gets on the phone and is basically like, I know you're involved. Blah blah blah. It sort of browbeats him, and then the guy's like, okay, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, he confesses the whole thing, and then kind of explains that Tilson's next like computer crime is going to be he's hacked the air traffic control computer, and he's going to crash 2 planes into each other.
So, which I actually think in itself is probably enough to work up to.
Yeah.
There's a couple things, but here's what I don't understand in terms of what's his name, Tilson. Why didn't Tilson just have all these things happen at once? Why didn't he have the planes crash, and while the planes are crashing, the dam breaks, and while the dam breaks, he has a bomb going off? Like, isn't that like that's a real like. If now let's say Automan's essentially Superman, that would be a great Superman story because Superman has all these powers, but he's pulled in 3 directions. Like there's tension built in there.
I think that's the thing is I think this episode almost works because it has enough material to build a much tenser episode where like a lot of things are in trouble. Like it could be a Saw, it could be something where like you're dealing with an unseen mastermind who's playing games with you. Like this, they bring up the idea of like we're playing a game, like. Make this a big game that Automan's having to play, and like he has to be in a million places at once because so many lives are at stake. But they kind of just do them episode, like every scene is contained, and Automan
also
solves it.
And not only do they do it one after another, but they're also handled in the most anticlimactic fashion possible. So it just feels like a series of road bumps before you get to the end, which again is also anticlimactic. So you're like, oh, that was all really disappointing.
I mean, it truly like in this sequence, like the planes are going to crash into each other. You kind of get 2 shots of cockpits. They can't see each other in the soupy. Whatever.
And for whatever reason, Automan, like basically the Automan's like, I'm going to get in the plane and warn them. Because what you find out is the computer that Tilson has made the computer sensors be inaccurate. So the planes don't realize how close they're flying to each other. Thus, they will crash. So Automan wants to get up, let them see him, and then they will like visually be able to figure out where they are. That's the plan, right? So they can't trust their instruments, but they see Automan, so are able to use him as like a horizon. I
don't think that's it. Essentially what happens is Automan turns the car into the autoplane, and he just flies it at one of the planes. And that plane like has to pull up to like to avoid Automan's plane, and so the other plane is able to land.
Now, I know it's just because the show loves dress up, but Automan dresses up like a pilot to get into the autoplane. I was sure it was going to be one of those like he's going to then get into a plane and has to look the part, but they're like, no, he just dressed up
for fun. He had been watching the movie The High and Mighty, and he wanted to do it. I mean, that's it. Like it's such a weird scene. Like it's so long too. Like the cops show up and there's like
there's like
Captain-
45 shots of just like fog to show you that they can't see things. I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be tense. No, it's not at all.
Captain Boyd's there with the air traffic controllers. They're freaking out. And like it's so funny because like basically a neon plane flies through, scares one of the pilots, avorts the crash, and then like they cut back to the air traffic control and they're like, "Whoa, that was so close. What was that neon plane?" And they're like, "Don't worry about it." And they're like, "Yeah, okay, let's just forget about it."
Yeah. It is, and it's like, why even have that scene? Don't even bother then. If you have no explanation, don't even show the scene.
And it's so weird. Bart, meanwhile, is trying to get out of town because he's like, I've betrayed the Superman, the supervillain. I got to get out of here. He gets in his car, which abruptly is autonomous. Like
I didn't understand what happened. Was it that, or was it just because it was like a fast sports car, right? Like I got the sense like maybe he was nervous and just lost control.
No. They say they've hacked the computer in his car and now they're driving his car for him.
Oh, you're right. I think you're right. I think Tilson he's done like what Penguin did to Batman in Batman Returns. He's kind of like taken over and he's like, I'm going to drive you to highway to hell or whatever Penguin says in that movie.
It's a sports car with clearly no computer. He's got a tape deck in it.
Yeah.
Tilson crashes it into a guardrail, but Otto and Wally arrive just in time to pull Bart from the car before it explodes. So Bart survives, but he's left unconscious.
He's horribly disfigured.
It's graphic. It's very graphic.
He was pulled out of the sports car, was dragged on the ground, his face just hitting every bump on the concrete. His face just shredded.
It's a real Two-Face.
Yeah, it's just peeled off, and then Wally's like...
That's what you call a face-off.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Anyway, Wally and Otto decide they're going to go check out Bart's room. Since they can't ask him any questions now, they'll go check out his hotel room and see what's going on, see if there's any clues there. They find a list of all the phone numbers for all the city's computers, so they're like, okay, clearly this is what's going on. And then what they do is Automan finds a game that he's developing that's got like a light gun on it.
Yeah.
And they clearly shot this scene, got to post, and we're like, no one's going to get this. Let's ADR an explanation for how this gun works and then have Automan re-explain the exact same information after they use it.
Not only that, I don't know if you've noticed, because there's this, we don't need to get, we already kind of mentioned that the reason he gets into the room is he uses his finger to get in, and then he hides in the wall. He goes in like invisible in the wall, but his shoes are still showing. And because they needed this effect of having his toes out, this entire sequence was shot on green screen. So all the background that all these people in for about half the scene is all green screen, and it just doesn't. And it's all for this dumb gag for his feet. So the other scenes of just two characters talking has to be on a green screen.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's just dumb looking.
Yeah. So there's this gun. It's essentially, I believe Automan says it's an energized ray.
It disrupts his molecules.
It disrupts his molecules. It's from his realm, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, basically, episode 7. Is it episode 7? Episode 8? Something like that. We've now had a weakness for Automan, other than he gets tired, is there's an actual weapon. This is kryptonite. This is his thing.
Yeah, it's the duck hunt gun.
And it's the duck hunt gun. And it's just like, basically they shoot him a couple times and like disarm him, but then it's like, he's okay.
It's just the thing I liked was like, there's clearly like heavy ADR. There's like 30 seconds of ADR where he pulls out and it's like, they didn't shoot this, and there's like just ADR of Wally and Automan talking about this gun. It's like, I have to be careful of this gun. Like, you can't show their faces because they're not saying any of this. The bad guys walk in the room. As you said, Automan and Wally merge, so Automan can hide in the wall away from them. But he doesn't hide far enough in the wall, so his little shoe tips are sticking out.
Yeah.
So he has to step out because he's been caught. And, Tilson is immediately like, hey, it's a hologram. And Allie, like, pulls out the gun, shoots Automan, and both Automan and Wally collapse to the floor, knocked unconscious.
And they get away. But then it's like, it's all for nothing because Wally just points out there's a socket near them, and he just pulls electricity up, and he's like, oh, I feel better.
Like, we go to commercial, we come back, Automan's like, I'm so weak. He's like, yeah, he just pulled out, he zaps himself, and he's like, and then Automan re-explains what the gun does, because this is when they actually shot the dialogue.
Yeah. And
it feels like they've been knocked unconscious. These people have gotten away. But they just walk out. Automan walks up the elevator and says, elevator friend, please bring them back to me. And the elevator just comes back up with them, and they're caught. I was like, what?
It's that whole sequence is so representative of this show. Just scenes you're like, this doesn't really work, and it's overly complicated, but it all just gets tied up. But it's like it didn't need to be a problem to begin with. It's such an odd show.
But unlike a normal Automan episode, the game's still afoot.
That's true. Because if you haven't been tracking, this is now going to be about a bomb defusal.
The bombs are coming back at the end of the episode. They essentially bring Ellie and Tilson in, basically Ellie and Bart don't know anything about Tilson's plans because they're just like hired help, and Tilson's not talking. And at this moment, Detective Curtis returns from his trip to track down Yorgos, the computer thief, who he comes in. He's like, "Hey, that guy's not real. Like someone who made him up. I followed the trail all the way to a bathroom stall, and inside the bathroom stall was the phone number for our department."
I know, it was so odd. So like that's the thing. It's like they're playing with this idea that there is a master criminal who's toying with the police, but they've only done it in this like one scene. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's he's sending them on a wild goose chase, but it's not really what this is.
Well, that's the thing. He's never Tilson doesn't seem to. He wanted ransom initially, and then he started wanting to threaten people theoretically for more ransom, but maybe revenge. But now also he's toying very specifically with this department of the LAPD. But up till now, why would he? It doesn't really matter. But like, they're like, oh, if the phone number is here, that must mean something about our office. And at that exact moment, all the computers in the LAPD seal the building down, and a message prints telling them that a bomb will explode in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Again, another episode this could have been. Again, just kind of think of Superman or someone who has a secret identity who can't reveal it. It could be Batman. It could be Spider-Man, which is they know if they are that superhero, they could save the day or they could go investigate, but they also have to hide their secret identity. And like that's one way to do it. Or it could just be the how do you find a bomb where you don't know where the bomb is, and you have to use the technology available or your skills available. But it's like they honestly, there's maybe 5 minutes left in the episode.
We've got
maybe 3 minutes left in the episode where they introduce this.
Well, like there's 15 minutes left before the bomb explodes.
Yeah.
It takes Wally 10 minutes to find a corner to summon Automan.
Yeah, that's right. Like he goes over and then it's like, and they have this whole scene where like Automan appears and then they have to hide him behind a door for no reason, and then they like it's just a waste time.
Well, it's just so funny because Automan arrives and he's like, "There's only 5 minutes left, Otto," and the bomb squad's looked everywhere. I'm like, I don't think they've looked everywhere in 10 minutes, Wally, but okay.
They haven't looked everywhere because what we find out really quickly is Automan knows where the bomb is, and how he's deduced it is that bomb from the beginning of the episode that you as a viewer were supposed to have tracked never was diffused. It just was turned off purposely, and
there's a bomb inside the bomb that diffused. Yeah. It's
so now the actual bomb has turned on, and there's only, I think now at this point, like 30 seconds left or something like that.
Well, do you know how? But you don't know how Automan finds it, though, do you?
No. How does he find it?
He says, it has a microchip in it, and it's the only one in the building that's talking to me because it's a nasty microchip.
I don't even remember that.
There's a nasty microchip in this building, Jordan.
Yeah, he's a nasty microchip.
But basically, he's able to find the one microchip who won't talk to him, goes in, flips it off.
Yeah, it is like, and it's funny because there's, again, almost a moment of tension here because Wally's really worried because he's like, there's 10 seconds left. There's 5 seconds left. Automan picks it up at 5 seconds and is like, huh, and he's acting all casual. He just disarms it like it's nothing. Wally faints because he's so worried. We go to commercial, and we come back, and what I like here is, it's that button you always have to have. They save the day.
We come back to the
and the captain
scene.
goes, I have so many questions. And I'm sure you wrote down some of them. It's like,
how did you find it?
How'd you find it? How'd you know to disarm it? And what else? There's a couple other ones.
Yeah, he's just asking. He's like, Wally, how
legitimate
on earth did
questions.
you do this?
And what does Wally say?
Wally looks at the camera and says, "Beginner's luck."
What they should have had is go back to the captain. He's like, no, seriously, this is an internal affairs.
Like, we need to have a conversation about.
Yeah, we need a conversation because what it looks like from the captain's perspective. Here's what I would think. Wally has planted the bomb. Wally's the computer expert. He's done all this to make himself look good.
Yeah. He's working with Tilson. Something.
But they're just like beginner's luck. Dun, dun, dun. Funny.
I know. It's so absurd.
This one, and I'm gonna say we're gonna get into our ratings now. This weirdly might have been my favorite episode, but also the episode that had the most potential, and because of the said potential, the worst execution because it gave a hint of what this show could have been. Like, look, this show's never going to be great, but it could have been fun, and it could have been interesting, and it could have been entertaining. And unfortunately, it's so convoluted and structured so poorly that what you get is a show that, more often than not, is kind of boring.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. Let's rate it because there's Flashes and Ashes, the first episode, which
Flashes and Ashes. That's me and you.
Which is a weird mashup of police corruption and magic for some reason.
Yeah. Here's what I say. I'm going to give this a little bit higher than I think it probably deserves. I'm going to give it a 5.5. And
oh my God.
And the reason I think it's because it's still not very good, but I can see glimmers of potential, and because I'm so deep into the show, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I did like the idea of watching footage and then reconstructing that to convince someone to admit the crime. I liked all that. I just don't like the packaging it came in, which is this show.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The crime is whatever. It could have been anything. The most interesting part was the idea of this magic club, the hologram they're going to make. They toy with this idea that, like, it's going to be about psychics for a second. There's a long conversation about psychic investigators that Automan has. And I'm just like, oh, is Automan going to be a psychic or work with a psychic? None of it comes to fruition of any sort.
Well, it's like they have interesting ideas, and then it gets put through the Automan sausage grinder and comes out this weird mishmash of 4 episodes. You're like, no, there was some interesting ideas. Like I again, this idea of this magic and playing with what's real and what's not, and Automan is real but he's not, and there's a way to like pull the wool over people's eyes. There's some cool ideas there, but like this episode is like, it's not very good. Like honestly, it's a 5.5. It's not very good. It's a 5.5.
I mean, yeah, I agree. It's not very good. I think it is a mishmash. Doesn't work. It's almost interesting to watch its awful opinions on police officers.
Yeah. Well, that got 5 points from me. I'm kidding.
Because elements I did enjoy, but they were
Luke. I already gave you the review. It's 5.5 out of 10.
I think I'm gonna give it a 3.
Oh wow,
it's not very good.
No, I agree with you.
Here's the thing. I think, like has happened in some of the previous episodes, the second one has been better than the first. Like, I think the biggest game in town is a more entertaining episode overall.
I agree. I'm gonna say, I think the best episode they've done, and it's not that good.
It's not very good, but it's the closest they've come to like doing a show about the show they're making.
Yes. It's about a computer crime. It actually makes sense that Wally's working on it. There could have been actual tension for Automan. There was a way to several ways of dealing with his powers, and they didn't want to commit to any of them. Whether it's him being pulled in too many directions, him having this kryptonite of this laser, or not wanting to give up his actual secret identity a la Wally. There's a whole bunch of different things, but they still want to commit to them.
Like, it's a rewrite away from being an episode that would be like why Automan could work.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that rewrite, so it's kind of a mess.
Yeah. So, in saying that, I'm going to give this, again, this is too high, but I'm feeling generous, I think, tonight, and I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. And I know that's too high.
Wow.
I know it's too high. Look, I'm saying it for the record. It's not a 6 out of 10. But I'm giving it a 6 out of 10, and I'm being nice, but it's not a 6 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 4, and I liked it.
Yeah. Well, we're not too far off.
I guess not. All right, Jordan. Should we just check the drag computer real quick? I think we're going to stay. I think you like these episodes too much.
I think, unfortunately, I probably did. I kind of forgot we were on the edge of possibly jumping off.
All right, Jordan. You ready? You ready to hear where Automan's falling?
Yeah.
5.07.
Oh my gosh, is that our closest we've ever come to going over the edge?
It's hard to remember, but this show is certainly taking us right to the edge of infinity.
I have to say, I'm not trying to fix these scores, and maybe I was too generous with this, but I did look ahead, Luke, and there's an episode. I think it's episode 11. It might be episode 12, where I'm pretty sure the plot is that Automan has to go undercover as a stripper. So I'm just saying.
Well, we can't leave before that.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a silver lining to us having to watch this week and week is that we might just get the stripper episode that this show deserves.
No, well, everybody, let's pray we get there.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you can email us about Automan. continuingdrag@gmail.com is our email here. If you have thoughts on Automan?
What thoughts could you have about Automan that you'd sit down and go, Dear Luke and what's the other one?
Flash.
Flash. Dear Luke and Flash. Yeah. Hey, Flashes and Ashes. Why is Automan Automan? Like, I don't know what could the question be. I'm just saying, don't email me.
Are we looking for dear Count Inum Drag?
Yeah, dear. I'll respond to that.
Count Inum Drag.
Right.
And of course on Instagram and Twitter we're gonna have some clips from the show. That's at Continuum Drag is that, and I don't know, stuff, magic.
There's magic. There's
computer crime.
Yes, it's like wall-to-wall computer crime.
But until next week, listener. Oops, I did this wrong. Keep fresh, and Jordan, I'll see you next week.
Keep fresh. That's how we should end everyone.
Great.
Keep fresh. Oh, I like that.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rex Seidler. Produced by Jordan Dullock and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Hughes.